Welcome to this Masterclass Explainer. Today, we're diving into a topic specifically tailored for you, pastors, lay leaders, and preachers, to help you truly equip your congregations. We are unpacking the source material on a massive, awe-inspiring topic, the teleological argument, but looking specifically at the hard scientific data for the fine-tuning of the cosmos. Our goal today is to move systematically from the cultural skepticism you encounter out there on the street, straight into rigorous astrophysics, and finally bring it right back home to the pulpit with some incredibly powerful practical sermon applications.
So here's our roadmap for this explainer. 1. The street, cosmic skepticism. 2. The academy, the cosmic dials. 3. The academy, Craig's syllogism. 4. Refuting the multiverse rescue. And 5. The pulpit, pastoral application. Okay, let's just dive right into it.
Section 1. The street, cosmic skepticism.
The source material kicks off by tackling a real issue, the existential loneliness that so many folks in your pews actually face. Secular media constantly pushes this narrative that humanity is just a random, accidental byproduct of a totally blind, indifferent universe. And this skepticism, it's usually packaged in really clever cultural myths, like this famous quote from author Douglas Adams. You might have heard it. He compares humanity to a puddle of water that wakes up in a hole and marvels at how perfectly the hole was designed for it. Basically, the accusation here is that believers suffer from cognitive bias. Adams is saying the universe wasn't designed for us. Life just randomly adapted to a random universe and, well, we're just fooling ourselves to think otherwise.
Section 2. The academy, the cosmic dials.
To equip you to answer that street-level skepticism, the source takes us deep into the actual physics governing our reality. Now look at how the material carefully defines its terms here. When physicists and apologists talk about fine-tuning, they absolutely do not mean changing the physical laws themselves. Instead, think of it like a giant cosmic control board. The laws of physics are the underlying circuitry, right? But fine-tuning refers to the exact numerical dials plugged into those laws, the constants of nature, and the initial conditions. The whole argument hinges on exploring what happens when those dials are tweaked, even a microscopic fraction.
Take the cosmological constant, for example, which dictates the expansion rate of the universe. This dial is calibrated to a mind-bending precision of 1 part in 10 to the 120th power. To put that into perspective for your congregation, the total number of subatomic particles in the entire observable universe is only about 10 to the 80th. If this dial is altered by that unimaginably tiny fraction, the universe either flies apart too fast for stars and galaxies to ever form, or it just instantly collapses back in on itself. It is literally the equivalent of throwing a single dart from across the entire universe and perfectly hitting a target the size of a dime.
And the Masterclass points out it doesn't stop there. The weak nuclear force, which controls radioactive decay, is tuned to 1 part in 10 to the 100th power. If you change this dial even slightly, the Big Bang would have only produced helium, or stars wouldn't be able to form heavy elements at all. And without heavy elements, there are no planets, and there is for sure no biology.
Then we have the delicate balance between gravity and electromagnetism. This ratio sits right on a razor's edge. If gravity were even slightly stronger, stars would burn incredibly hot and burn out their fuel in just a few million years. That's way too fast for life to ever emerge. But if gravity were slightly weaker, stars would never get hot enough to ignite nuclear fusion in the first place. The result? A cold, dark, perfectly lifeless void.
Finally, consider the strong nuclear force. This is what binds the nucleus of an atom together. A tiny 1 to 2% deviation on this specific dial completely halts the stellar nucleosynthesis of carbon and oxygen. And, as the argument points out, without carbon and oxygen, the fundamental building blocks of life literally cannot exist. The biological chemistry required to make a physical body is just impossible.
Section 3. The academy, Craig's syllogism.
The source material shows how all these incredibly dense scientific facts actually build into a really elegant logical framework. To do this, it leans on philosopher Dr. William Lane Craig. He frames the teleological argument through a very simple syllogism of elimination. Step 1. The fine-tuning is due to either physical necessity, chance, or design. Step 2. It is not due to physical necessity or chance. Step 3. Therefore, it is due to design. Now let's break down Step 2. Could it be physical necessity? Skeptics will sometimes argue, well, maybe a future theory of everything will prove these numbers just had to be this way. But the source notes there is literally zero evidence for that. The constants appear totally arbitrary. In fact, M-theory, a leading framework in physics right now, allows for 10 to the 500th power different possible universes. So Craig rightly argues our specific life-permitting constants are definitely not physically necessary.
So what about chance? Could the universe have just hit the cosmic jackpot? The source brilliantly illustrates why that logic fails using an analogy. Imagine you're placed in front of a firing squad of 100 elite marksmen. The order is given, they all fire, and you open your eyes perfectly unharmed. Every single bullet missed. You wouldn't just shrug your shoulders and say, well, I guess it was just a lottery. Obviously, if they hadn't missed, I wouldn't be here to observe it. I mean, while technically true, it completely fails to explain why they missed. The argument points out that the only rational conclusion is that those 100 elite marksmen intentionally missed. And just like that, the chance hypothesis is completely dismantled.
Section 4. Refuting the multiverse rescue.
So this masterclass really shines by giving you diagnostic tools for when you inevitably get pushback in everyday conversations. First, it exposes what it calls a massive category error in that Douglas Adams puddle analogy from earlier, remember? That analogy assumes life can just adapt to any environment, like water conforming to a hole. But when we are talking about changing the cosmic constants, the physics data isn't about life adapting to a differently shaped environment. It's about the physical ground dissolving entirely. If these constants change, chemistry, stars, and matter itself cannot exist at all. It's not a different shaped hole, it's absolute physical collapse.
When skeptics realize the puddle analogy fails, the source notes they usually appeal to the multiverse. The idea is, hey, if there's an infinite number of universes, one of them is bound to randomly get the numbers right. But the material points out this is strictly a metaphysical theory. There is absolutely zero empirical evidence for it. Plus, whatever theoretical universe generator is supposedly pumping out all these realities, that machine would itself require exquisite fine-tuning to operate. Mathematically speaking, the source states that if a random multiverse did exist, it's vastly more probable that we would observe a Boltzmann brain, which is basically a momentary random hallucination of a single brain forming in chaos, rather than the vast, orderly, incredibly complex cosmos we actually live in. Ultimately, the source argues the multiverse takes just as much, if not more, blind faith as believing in a designer.
Section 5. The Pulpit. Pastoral application. This is where the material makes its most crucial pivot. Because for us as preachers and leaders, this data isn't just a debate tactic to win an argument. It is a profound pastoral tool. The masterclass connects this cutting-edge astrophysics straight to ancient scripture, Psalm 19, the heavens declare the glory of God, and Psalm 139, which talks about God meticulously knitting life together. The source highlights that this scientific data actually provides a brilliant end run around messy biological evolution debates. Think about it. No matter how life developed down the line, the initial cosmic conditions had to be engineered by a meticulous creator for any biology to even be possible in the first place. You can take the mathematical elegance of the stars and share it with your congregation as an undeniable testament of God's care.
The material leaves us with this absolutely beautiful homiletical hook for your next sermon. Listen to this. The universe was not thrown together, it was tuned. The God who calculated the weight of every atom to make a home for you is the same God who has numbered the very hairs on your head. It encourages you to use this data to comfort struggling congregants, to show them with rigorous intellectual backing that they are not a cosmic accident, but intentionally, lovingly designed. So the question the source leaves us with is this: how will you use this incredible truth to inspire your congregation this Sunday?